Hi, welcome to another episode of the Ambient Mellotron here on the Ambient iPad. Let's make some music. It's winter, it's cold out, it's getting dark earlier. It's a good time of year for the lo-fi sounds of the original Mellotron. For this improvisation, I'm going to use the clarinet sound from the Mellotron Mark I. The signal chain is the Mellotron M4000D Mini. Its master analog mono output goes into a Focusrite Scarlett 18i8 interface, which communicates back and forth to the iPad Pro through a USB-C hub that also lets me power the iPad Pro at the same time. Working once again in apeMatrix, and the first thing I need to do is move it to the mono input. We're going to use the clarinet sound from the Mark I. It's really kind of crunchy and lo-fi. Let me add a compressor first just so I can sample the sound that we're going to use. I always use the basic. It's a 4:1 ratio, very, very basic. Smooths out the valleys and the peaks. All right, this is the Mark I clarinet. So I held some of those notes so you could hear the difference in vibrato. You know, once again, the original Mellotron tapes, each individual key was a tape and a performance. So there was a player that played that note for the clarinet. Obviously, consistency between the notes went up and down depending on the player and other circumstances of the recording. So you do get differences in vibrato, in pitch, and also in timbre. Occasionally a player would hit something like a chair or a mic stand, and you can hear that as well. All the beauty of a Mellotron. That's really what you're going for the sound. Yes, this is not this is not the instrument you want if you're looking for a really clean studio quality, in this case clarinet sound. All right, let's keep adding some effects. Did buy a few more effects during this year's Black Friday sales, mostly effects as opposed to synths. So another thing I bought is the Bleass Chorus. I'm going to add that. And I'm just going to route these in parallel to begin with so you can hear the individual sounds of the effects, but then I will reroute them in series out through the last effect. So clean widener, that's a nice basic chorus. So here's the clarinet, Mark I clarinet through the Bleass Chorus. Just a really subtle basic chorus sound. Next, let's do delay. And as usual, I will do the K7D from Imaginando. And one of my patches here, ambient tape delay. The little longer with a delay than the other ones that I've created, but let's go back here because we may want to adjust. So let's add that in. I'll turn off the chorus. We'll keep the compressor going. So here's the Imaginando K7D delay. A little subtle in the background, however, once I route the effects in series, it'll come back up. But as far as the timing and the feedback, and I may boost the dry-wet mix if it doesn't in fact come through the way I'm expecting it to. But this is a really good tape delay. That's really what it does. Let's add the chorus back in. So here's the chorus and the delay in parallel. And finally, let's just turn those off for now. And finally, let's do a reverb. I did buy a new reverb that is really cool. A lot of big spaces and a lot of parameters you can adjust. It's called Altispace2. Now, I can't tell right now, but I'll be able to tell in playback. So if you've listened to or watched any of my videos, you know I went through a period where I had issues with apeMatrix doing screen recording. So that's not an issue now. However, for some reason, when I open up the effects here, move them around, they're on the screen playback, they're pushed down way to the low part of the screen. If that's the case, I'll just show screenshots of the effects as I'm going through them, but just that word of warning. So I've been working with this patch called Spring Meadow. It's really big. Let's make sure this is all connected. So right now this is just the reverb and the compressor, again in parallel. All right, so a nice little bit of a bigger reverb, not huge. However, let's first listen to everything in parallel, all the effects. A nice tail there for the reverb. Now let's start doing these in series. So we'll have the compressor go into the chorus, then the chorus will go into the tape delay, and then the tape delay will go into the reverb. However, I also want the delay to go in parallel too, only because that'll bring it a little more forward. So this is what all of these sound like, essentially going out through the reverb. So you can hear it's definitely a longer tail there. That's not just the reverb, it's the delay. The combination of the delay going through the reverb is essentially stretching that out. I know from listening to them in parallel that the reverb actually has the longer tail, but because of the tail of the delay, it kind of combines and just makes it sound like one individual sound rather than the two separate sounds. I'd like to hear the delay just slightly more, so I'm going to move up the dry wet mix just a little. Let's hear what this sounds like. Getting there, just a teeny bit more. Yeah. Let me turn off everything again except the delay so we can hear what the clean sound is, and then I'll turn everything back on just to compare and contrast before I get into the jam. Of course, I didn't turn everything off. Let me try that again. So that's the sound with no effects. Let's add everything back in here. So you can still hear that core sound. Actually, I don't want the compressor to go parallel. Let's hear if that makes much of a difference. I don't think it will. Actually, it did. We lost a little bit of the characteristic, or just the clean, I hate to use the word clean, clean sound of the unaffected clarinet sound was just a little more forward, but I actually like the soundscape that came about with this. So you've heard me do this stuff before. It's just one of the basic Mellotron sounds, and really just a small collection of effects that just makes a soundscape. That's the best way to put it. And my tendency is a bit to overplay, even with this. I mean, during the jam, I'll try to have some moments where I stop playing because the tails do sound really good, and it is a discipline to play less notes. And even with these big expansive reverbs, a lot of times I just put too many notes in, so no guarantee that I'll succeed with this jam, but I will try to do some long kind of tones just to get the sound of the effects along with that Mellotron clarinet to come through. All right, time for the jam. For some of these improvisations, I concentrate on the sound from the Mellotron and try to do something more melodic. In other cases, like this improv, it's as much about the effects I use to create a big soundscape. I had a hard time telling when the tails for the reverb ended as opposed to the tails from the delay, and I think the interaction between the two helped create that big atmosphere. Well, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and good luck with your own music.